So I'm here with my friend Nick. If you watch my video, A Conversation with a Friend, this is the friend I had a conversation with. And we decided to make another video together, and this one's going to be a Q&A based video. We have 3 questions written for each other. And the topic is sense of self. And with you being my guest, figured I'll ask you a question so you can speak first.
Yep.
My first question is, if you were to locate the sense of self in the body, where is it? And if so, what is it that located this sensation? And if you need me to repeat the question, let me know.
I would say, for me anyway, personally, the sense of self derives from, as far as spatially, it derives from my head. I feel as if I'm in my brain, and it's this sensation of almost, like piloting, like your brain almost, and you're piloting your body kind of thing, like not necessarily in like a dissociated way. It's just you feel like you're operating. You kind of identify with, as far as the sensation goes, your head, and
it's this feeling in the head.
And but it manifests through the whole body as if you're puppeteering it.
You can sort of translocate it around.
As far as sensation goes.
Now, if you were to locate the specific space in which the self is, which you've said is in this area, where is it in that area?
Ooh, I guess, like, as far as spatially, it's almost like your brain, I guess, but like that's not to say that, I'm not necessarily saying that consciousness is in your brain or that yourself is just your brain, but the sensation arises from that as far as spatially goes, but you almost feel as if it's like your whole head is the
I.
It just feels like it's this. It's honestly quite difficult to pin down. It's like fluid.
That's why this was one of my questions.
It's like spacious, it's like an open space, and you can't. It's like grasping at air. Is kind of like the sensation.
When you go, I am, where is that ability of action coming from?
So
where is this I that is?
So what's saying I am? What's saying that?
Right. I guess you could word it that way. Yeah.
I would say it's the, you could say it's this part of our mind that is manifested through our experiences, which has grown and adapted, which is what you would call your ego. I think that's
conditioning.
What it is. Yes, it's the conditioning. It's you go through these experiences and you learn something from that experience, and then you learn something from that experience, and it's this layering of these things that create this complex web of who we are. And in that, and in the human race's ability to conceptualize and make advanced thoughts, we use that in tandem with this, and that creates the sense of I am.
Because you're right. When you earlier you initially said it's in this area, and if somebody's in front of you and you ask them, where are you? They'll say, like, I'm right here. And oh yeah, no, where are you? And it's my body. I'm right here.
But it's like your head, as far as how it feels anyway, I don't literally think that, but it feels like your head is piloting your body.
No, like you pick at them a little further. Okay, in your body, where are you? And that was roughly the question I was asking you. I'm up here, right? This is where I am, But is there a sensation that is where you are located?
That's what I mean. That's the sensation of where we're located.
Is there that sensation though?
I would say so. Yeah, like it's like this feeling of like Alan Watts described it as tension between your temples. It's like a stress that you feel, and that. But as to why we identify that, I don't know why. I think
why we identify as that.
Even if there is a sensation, I think it's bullshit. Why do we identify with that sensation, but we don't identify with other sensations? Why don't we identify with the experience?
With the plethora of experience.
We identify with a conceptual experience, a conceptual, sensational experience.
A worded experience.
Yes.
Oh, and I want to mention there might be gunshots going on in the background. But no, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, it's
good.
But
the second half of my question, what is it that locates this sense of self?
Itself. I mean, right? I mean, what beside if we're gonna say that sense of self is is a conceptualizer and conceptualizes things itself, really, it's the self-awareness, the self-consciousness, you know, like it's
okay. No, I know what you're saying. So the thing that locates the feeling of I is the I, the true I, or is it once again that feeling of I?
Are you talking about what the true I is? What you really are?
No, I'm talking about what it is that when somebody asks, like in this question, where are you? Where is the sense of self located? Okay, you look around for where it's located. You might find it, you might not. Then you ask, what is it that located that sensation? Was that you? Was that you? Or was that
awareness?
The sense of self? Again. Do you think it was awareness that located your sense of self?
Well, you could argue that, yes. I think that awareness, like, that's the only way that you could experience that. You know what I mean? That's the only way that you could know that it was there.
That would imply that the awareness is doing activity.
Yes, you're right. Maybe the awareness isn't.
The awareness is there of this activity of locating the self. Okay, we've found the self, but who located that? Who found that? Was it the true innate self locating itself, or was it that sense of self thinking it's
reinforcing what it believes?
Right.
That's what I personally think it is.
Right.
It's a feedback loop. You know.
Yes, dude, I've heard about that. I have heard about that.
It's a self-fulfilling.
A feedback loop. I think that's a good way to conclude
and that's
the first question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I actually want you to finish what you were just saying.
No, I was just gonna say that that feedback loop is just basically what we're talking about. But anyway, yeah.
That's a good way to describe it, because I've heard that term put before, and I've never really learned about what it meant. I think it's a psychology term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just hearing feedback loop, it kind of sounds applicable to ego, or the sense of self.
And that's what I was gonna say, is that's basically what that is it's this self-fulfilling, self-perpetuating thing.
So I think we can move on to one of your questions for me.
Wonderful. I just have to log on to my phone real quick. All right.
Hit me, man.
So, okay. My question is, if the ego is not what we are, which I think is something we can sort of mutually agree upon, then what are we? What is the true self? What are we in truth if the ego is not what we are? Does that make sense?
Yes, I got the question. I have to use words here to describe it, to answer you.
Yes.
So, what I would have to say we are, because you're right, we aren't this
Personality.
phantom self, this personality, yes. That is a facet of us, of I.
Mm-hmm.
But what we are, what I am, is what we all are, and what everything is a fundamental knowing of itself.
Yes. You could sit another way to word that is awareness, essentially.
Yes, and I didn't want to just say awareness because, dive into even that. I am awareness.
Mm-hmm. Well, as soon as you start saying I am awareness, I think that also kind of can, that can sort of, that you start identifying
who I am
in a diluted sense as well. You can fall down.
Who I am is a fundamental knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And not a knowing of
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Not a seer of something. But who I am is the known, not the knower.
Mm.
And the seen, not the seer.
Mm-hmm.
Is I guess the best way I can describe
Mm-hmm.
who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not exclude this fabricated personality that I use in terms of social interaction amongst people.
Navigation of the world, basically.
Right. As Terence McKenna so nicely put it, putting food into your mouth instead of the other person's mouth. Mm-hmm. This sense of personality of I am this is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's useful, but it's not who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how I'd conclude that question.
Yeah, definitely.
You have any sort of feedback for that question? You agree?
No, I would say like another word that I would perhaps way to articulate, maybe this, I don't know if this is what you meant, but you are the experience. You are what is happening through your lens of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You are the experience of what is happening, and part of that as well is the personality that we craft, is the identity and the likes and the dislikes and this mesh of concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is something that we experience.
Exactly. It's part of the experience, right?
And the sort of idea of it is that,
that's who you are in that experience.
Really isn't about destroying your ego, but it's about
maybe
seeing it,
right.
and through seeing it, it ceases to be naturally, because it becomes another droplet in the ocean of experience. It becomes another.
It's like
facet.
A fire.
Yes.
It's like a fire.
It becomes another thing that just goes and ceases, and then ignites, and then extinguishes naturally.
No, I like that.
And
man.
that's kind of how you defeat it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's all I have to add.
Yep. So I'm going to move on to my second question for Nick. Okay. Is the sense of self necessary for survival/communication?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Well, that's sort of the interesting thing, is that I would say probably yes. I don't think that that's kind of why I was saying you can't necessarily kill your ego completely, because I think if you were to truly destroy that, you would lose your ability to maintain your existence as a mortal human being. You would lose your, I feel like you would lose your foundational body. You would die.
If you didn't have a sense of self.
I feel like eventually that's kind of why it's been crafted over time, is through evolution and the way that the universe has been, is we've basically that it's a survival mechanism. Ultimately is what our sense of self is, because we need to learn to separate and distinguish. It's a navigational tool basically, and that's why I was talking about you can't just destroy that outright, and why you need to you need to watch it, you need to observe it, you need to accept it, I guess, is kind of what I was talking about.
So you do think it is fundamentally necessary for there to be a sense of self in order to survive and or communicate with another being?
Well, I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know if it's necessary.
And remember
perhaps.
what the innate sense of self is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's not the words.
Mm-hmm.
It's this feeling that you are a person, a self.
Yes.
That sense of self, is that necessary to communicate or survive? That feeling that you are a person.
How would you communicate if there was no sender? How do you communicate if there is no thing that is transmitting something to someone else? You know what I mean? How, and that's because if you didn't have that...
That brings into question, is the ego, is the feeling of self the sender? Is it?
That's... I would say that the feeling of self is... I would say so in that sense, yes. As far as interacting with other people, I would say so.
You feel that this feeling of self is what communicates with others?
Yes, I would say so, yes. As far as how would you be able to communicate with something else if there was no reference to me? You know what I mean? How would you communicate to another person if there was no communicator? You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. That sense of self wouldn't be able to function.
I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole here, and I don't know if it's gonna make any sense.
No, you're good, bro.
Do vocal cords have a sense of self?
No, but they are, the vocal cords are being controlled by something that does, right?
Are you telling your vocal cords to move in the way they are right now? Am I controlling
speaking, yes.
my vocal cords?
Well,
I don't know how to run my neurons.
That's true. You're not doing it consciously. I'm not thinking oh, I need to make my neurons
right. And that sense of self is the one who feels like it's doing things.
But what you are is the awareness of the thing that is actually doing it. Because I'm not aware of my heart beating. I'm not aware of my lungs breathing.
Do you
most
think?
Of the time.
Okay, here's a really narrowed down version of the question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I can speak proper English to you without having an ego? Without being identified with a sense of self?
No, because you would lose. I feel like eventually, if you were a truly enlightened being without an ego, or at least not attached to it anyway, you would lose your capacity for conceptual thought. I feel. Well, you wouldn't lose your capacity for conceptual thought, but
all known beings who have potentially reached this state of enlightenment weren't actually enlightened, because if you are actually enlightened, you can't speak English anymore.
No,
you've transcended
no.
all.
Okay, yes. No, I would say if you. No, that's a good point. I guess more what I meant is if you. I guess you still would be able to, but you just wouldn't perceive it. I guess at that point you're talking about something that we fundamentally don't understand too, though, as well.
You were just on the cusp of saying how I feel about that question, in that, it's not necessary. The feeling of me being the one doing it all isn't necessary. Because after all, I'm not the one doing it. We don't know. Alan Watts.
It's kind of a delusion.
Yes, we don't know where our thoughts come from. We don't know where our decisions come from. I am just speaking to you. You know what I mean? It's not like there's this separate thing in me going, okay, I'm gonna say these words to Nick, and then you know what I mean? It's just this happening, and that right there isn't who you are. It's in there. It's been pounded into you. The knowing of language, of eating, the sensations of thirst, cold, the what you need to do to survive, and what you need to do to communicate is implemented into your thing. You have vocal cords. You have this ability that transcribes sound into words that you know. That isn't you doing that. That is the innate biology of the experience going on that allows you to understand. And I personally don't feel that there is. I don't need to feel like I'm somebody to talk to you. Or to eat food and drink water.
You can just eat food or just talk or just that without any conceptual embellishments.
It all kind of like, I want to say takes care of itself, but you know, there's so much room for misinterpretation in saying that, you know.
Yes.
Okay, I'll sit here and do nothing. You're gonna fucking die.
Yeah, exactly.
The knowing that you have now, that you've accidentally identified with over all this time, remains when your identification with it ceases. You know? You can just be the experience and speak and eat and drink. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
Do you agree with that, or you disagree at all?
I do agree. However, there is something that I was thinking is that words are conceptual. Words are, linguistics are conceptual. It's our intangible measurement of reality, basically, is what language is, and of events. And I still feel like your capacity and perception of language and linguistics would definitely change over time with that. Is kind of
due to a lack of sense of self.
Yes, because I feel like our sense of self is, well, as far as like our ego, our personality, our identity is very much ingrained in the conceptual. It kind of exists as this advanced concept, and so I feel like as that hold would loosen, I still do think that the ability to communicate would definitely be different. I
don't think I would say words differently the lesser and lesser there is a sense of self. The more and more my sense of self fades, the more and more different I communicate. I feel, yes, maybe the words I am saying will change, the things I am describing are changing, but they are not of themselves different because I am not identified with them. Just because I've stopped identifying with words, sensations, whole concepts.
I guess what you wouldn't necessarily lose the ability to conceptualize words.
Right, this conceptualizing thing.
It.
Right.
You would just be aware of the processes as it spits back and receives.
And in that moment, you would either say respond or not respond.
Yes.
Eat or not eat. You know what I mean? I feel that's a good way to end that question. If you want to move on to your, I think it's second or third question.
It's my second question now.
I might have to make this a 2-part video.
Yeah,
you know what?
possibly.
I think I'm gonna do that. We're at 25 minutes right now.
All right.
Second part will be our second and third questions together. So go check out the second video. That'll be up right after this one.